Synchronization methods. The most common type of synchronization today is to the cloud, and we mentioned this in previous sub-lessons. You might use the iCloud for your iOS devices and Mac computers, or you might use OneDrive if you have a Windows Live account, if you're using Microsoft Office applications, or have Windows systems and Windows Mobile and Windows Phone and so on. Or you might use the Google Cloud. And so, for example, let's say you have a Gmail account, you will probably synchronize all that Gmail data to the cloud. And let's show a quick calendar example. And we'll bring up our smartphone here. And this is the Android device. And we'll go to the calendar here, which is built in, but I've already associated one of my Gmail accounts with this phone, and that automatically synchronized it, associated it, and synchronized it with contacts, the calendar, email, and more. So we're going to tap on calendar now, and you'll see I have an item in here for April 14th, pay taxes. All day, pay taxes. And there's no time needed for that, so I just set it to all day. Got to pay those taxes, right? So now let's bring up a browser. I'll bring up Firefox on this PC that I'm working on currently. And I'm in the Google Calendar online at calendar.google.com. And I've gone to April 14th, and you can see it says pay taxes. That automatically synchronizes through the Google Cloud, the Google Cloud platform. So, this is the easiest way to do it. And, whether you have Microsoft devices or Android-based devices or iOS devices, that's the way to do this. It's the easiest way to go. So that's the most common synchronization method. And one of the terms you'll hear related to this is mutual authentication for multiple services. And what that means, if we go back to our Android device, what that just means is that we have multiple services running here. We've got the calendar that we just showed. We've got email, we've got contacts and other things, and they're all interrelated and they're all associated with that one Gmail account. And so all these services use the same authentication. They use the same username, the same email address, and the same password. They use that same authentication. So these multiple services mutually share that authentication method through the Google Cloud platform. And that's normally how it's going to work with most cloud platforms today. But again, you can also synchronize to the desktop or the laptop, and that's usually done by USB. And so you need to have a connection, a USB connection, usually micro USB on the mobile device, and a regular type A connector that goes out to your PC or laptop. And this often requires what's known as an MTP connection. If you're doing it by USB, if you want to synchronize data, you need an MTP connection to work with synchronization programs. So let's show an example here. Here's a common error that you might see with a mobile device. This is the Samsung Smart Switch program, which allows you to synchronize between all kinds of different devices and computers. And you see here, I've already connected my device, my Samsung device. And it tells us here, USB connection not supported. And it says, try changing the connection mode to media device MTP and try connecting again. So let's take a look at our Samsung device. And if we go to this, what we want to do is we want to scroll down from the top and bring down our notification area. And you'll see here that right now it's connected as a camera. And the problem here for me is that in order to show this, in order for me to use VNC to connect to this guy, I have to have it connected as a camera. I can't do an MTP connection. But if we wanted to use the Smart Switch program or just about any other data synchronization program that comes with an Android device, you'd have to change this setting. So I'm going to tap on that right there. And you'll see you have the two options here. Right now it's set checkmarked to camera PTP, but we're going to need that MTP connection. So I would have to check mark this to be able to synchronize all the data to the PC. I'm not going to do that right now because we'll lose our connection to this device. But that's just one example of software that you could use to synchronize to the desktop or laptop. And that smart switch software will synchronize everything: pictures, videos, music, contact information, email, all the stuff that we talked about in the previous sub-lesson. And there's lots of other programs like that out there. Every manufacturer has their own. Or if you're using iOS, you'd use iTunes. And of course, there's third-party programs for that as well. So let's go back to the home screen. And I actually have the smart switch running on this guy as well. Let's take a look at the apps running here. And here we go. Smart switch. And I've installed this. This guy allows you to move data between mobile devices. So this is a really cool thing. This is synchronization between mobile devices. Let's say you have an older smartphone and you want to update to a newer smartphone. Well, it would be a pain to manually move all your data, but it would be a lot easier to synchronize the data. And, a smart switch program like this allows you to go from one Samsung device to another. And there's similar programs for other manufacturers out there. Now, this type of synchronization can be done with a USB on-the-go cable, an OTG cable, and that's basically micro USB on both ends. And it's a special cable that allows either computer, either mobile device, to act as the host or a slave, depending on which direction you're going to go. But quite often with these types of programs, you can also do it via Wi-Fi or near-field communication, where the two devices just have to be really close to each other. So if we go back to this guy, you can see this program actually allows you to transfer from iOS devices to Android, Android to iOS, to older BlackBerry devices, whatever direction you want to go. Just put them next to each other and start synchronizing, or use a USB on-the-go cable, depending on the program that you use. And so this is pretty easy to do this stuff. Now you should check this. When you're done synchronizing, you should always check the new device. At least spot check your data and verify that you have, the pictures, the music, and so on, and possibly do a full backup of the old data to a old USB flash drive or to your computer or something like that. But this is an example of a synchronization program that not only can be used between mobile devices, but also can be used between a mobile device and a PC. And lastly, software requirements to install synchronization apps to a PC. You're going to need to make sure that you're running the right version of Windows. Most of these programs nowadays will say Windows Vista or higher. As of the recording of this video, that is what they'll say, Windows Vista or higher, because Windows XP support has ended with Microsoft. So generally, you'll see Vista or higher. And it's recommended really that you have 7 or 8 or 10. And, that way you can easily install the program. Now, the program may also say that you need a certain CPU and RAM. Most PCs and laptops will meet those requirements, but you always want to check that with whatever program you're going to use. So think about your synchronization methods, whether you're going to use the cloud, whether it's iCloud or OneDrive or Google Cloud. And remember mutual authentication. Multiple services that you have, such as calendar, email, contacts, will share the same mutual authentication if you are synchronizing to something like the Google Cloud using, say, a Gmail account. Remember that synchronization is usually done by USB to a desktop, and that'll often require an MTP connection with the newer type of synchronization software if you're doing it by USB. But you can also synchronize between mobile devices via a USB on-the-go cable or via Wi-Fi or NFC, near-field communication. That'll depend on the program. Okay, and always check the software requirements when you're installing these synchronization apps to your computer. So there's a little bit about synchronization methods. That wraps up the lesson, and that wraps up the mobile section of this course. And in the next section, we're going to get into security. So that's about it for this sub lesson.